Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's event hosted by the Warsaw Institute Foundation, organized with support of National Institute of Freedom. Today, we are summarizing the 9 years of the Three Seas Initiative, started de facto in 2015 by Polish and Croatian presidents forming a Three Seas group that then transformed into the Three Seas Initiative, which first summit took place in 2016. And today with me, two great experts, Mr. Matija Horvat. Good afternoon, good to have you on board.
Thank you, it's a privilege.
And Reinhard Klauczek, straight from Austria. Good afternoon, Reinhard.
Good afternoon, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Before we move to summarizing 9 years of the Three Seas Initiative, we need to start with a short comment of what happened recently. Hereby I'm referring to Austrian elections and the newest result. So here I would like to give the floor to Reinhard Klauczek just to quickly tell us what happened in Austria and whether there are some interesting possibilities for the Three Seas cooperation coming from new election result. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I think you all heard about the elections yesterday in Austria and heard about the result. It was not a surprise for me, and I would say not a surprise for most of the other people in Austria. It is a fact that the coalition government between the People's Party and the Green Party was not very popular. Maybe some people in People's Party believed it was popular, but it was just the elite of the party leaders who believed in that. And the result we see is, it was expectable somehow. The Freedom Party, which is a so-called right-wing populist party, very much pro-Russian, they have a kind of cooperation agreement with Putin's party, so they now have about 30%. But the point is, all the other parties said, we are not going to make a coalition with this party as long as they have the same leader who was in the previous government, the Minister for Interior, Herbert Kickl. So we will see what it brings, who could form a coalition government with whom there is only the possibility that two parties make a coalition if the People's Party decides to go into a coalition party with the Freedom Party. The possibility to have a coalition with the Social Democrats exists, but only with one mandate, more than 50%. So that's not realistic. So they would need a third party. But, and this is my prediction, it will take a long time to form a government because we have local elections in two regions in the next 2 months. And this means anybody who makes a step could make the wrong step, because it affects the results of this local coalition. So it will be a time, let's say, in the next 2-3 months, where we see how it develops and in which direction it goes. If it is good or bad for the Three Seas Initiative, when everybody knows that Austria is not very active in this cooperation format. So I don't see it will have any effect. We will see in the next 2 months which direction it's going.
Thank you very much. So the current situation internal in Austria is definitely worth observing in the following days, weeks, and maybe even years, depending on what will happen within the next days. So, gentlemen, let's move to main topic of our discussion. I will start with quite positive question about the outcomes. So 9 years of the initiative. I want to ask you, what are the main successes and main achievements of the Three Seas Initiative, and how have your countries benefited from participating in this initiative? So I mean Croatia and Austria. I will give the floor to Matija Horvat for this question.
Thank you once more. Greetings from Zagreb, Croatia, and I'm honored to be here with you and with the distinguished guest from Austria, Mr. Reinhard. Yes, we are near 10 years, and it is 9 years since the initiative began. To be frankly, in Croatia, this initiative is still under-recognized And this is what analysts say, and scholars and pundits. We hope that in the future it has a big potential to grow. And we think that from our perspective, we must say something about transportation segment. We have, as you all know, LNG terminal on island of Kirk in the northern Adriatic. So this is one of our greatest achievements, which is compatible with our initiative, with this partnership. Nowadays, there are some problems with Hungary. We have Prime Minister Orban, who has his own vision. So we want to cooperate, and we want countries that are landlocked to have access to our LNG terminal, and we want to cooperate with everybody. So we invited Orban for more cooperation on this field. But as we all know, Prime Minister Orban of Hungary has his own agenda. So he's writing letters to EU Commission. We are writing letters to EU Commission, and he has, and there is a failure in communication because he has his own agenda, and we all know that. So our Prime Minister, our government is trying to be the best possible partner, but my opinion is that with some persons you cannot cooperate. So this is something that we don't see in our news every day, but this is something that we are monitoring. And there is a big we are still want to be a partner, but like I said, with some people you cannot communicate.
Thank you very much. Now I'm moving with the same question to Reinhard Klauczek about successes, achievements, and potential gains for Austria coming from the Three Seas initiative.
Yeah, it's good that people still are writing letters. Just to comment on what you said.
Yes.
Well, you know, Austria is part of this partnership since the beginning of this initiative, but does not play a very active role. To be honest, for the Austrian government, it means that we should be there because so we get information, we can participate. We are interested in developing the infrastructure in these countries. It is a fact that Austria has historic ties to most of these countries. And it is also a fact that we have enormous economic ties to all of these countries. Many Austrian companies are active there. Austria was one of the big profiteers of the end of the Iron Curtain and then of the enlargement policy of the European Union. So it makes sense that Austria is part in this Three Seas partners, Three Seas initiative as a partner. In the media, in the public debates, it does not really play a role. If we talk to representatives from industry, they say, yes, it's important for us because we have economic connections. The last thing we did in this initiative was 5 years ago or 6 years ago or something like that. But it's not so in the front of our activities. So Austria is there, profits from any kind of partnership in Central Europe, let's say that way, but does not really play an active role in this initiative. This has maybe also a little bit to do with the situation now, because Austria is a neutral country, and so the aggression of Russia against Ukraine is a little bit a tricky situation for the Austrians because they don't know into which direction to go, being part of the European Union, but on the other side, trying to be neutral.
Thank you very much. We'll stay with you for the next question. You mentioned Russian aggression on Ukraine and in general security challenges. So having in mind current security challenges in Europe and even global challenges, particularly in light of conflicts or invasions. Do you think that the initiative has lost momentum since the beginning of it? And how do you see the potential of the initiative to evolve in future, and if it can play any role towards emerging threats, security threats?
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. No, I don't think that the initiative lost momentum. I would say the opposite is the case, because in the Three Seas initiative in the previous years, we could see a closer cooperation and a new kind of geopolitical approach in these countries. This is, of course, because of the fact that Poland is directly on the border to Ukraine, because Romania is directly on the border to Ukraine, and also other countries have a border to Ukraine, so they are directly affected by what's happening in Ukraine, and they see the threat. I mean, you know more than the Austrians what it means to be under Russian control. For us, it was many years ago, more than 50 years ago, when the Russians have been here. And people don't want to see the threat. There is one interesting point. A friend from Ukraine once said that in a meeting when we talked about the Russian aggression, and then she said, when I try to explain my Ukrainian friends why the Austrians are so friendly to the Russians, I always tell them that when it's about Austria, the Russians did not break the treaties. So they kept it. They were a solid partner for Austria, and that's why many Austrians believe that this is a normal situation. The fact is that the Russians are not a solid partner. They are an aggressor, they are a gangster, whatever you call it, and whatever government it was. This government now is a very special case, and therefore I see a great potential in the Three Seas initiative, because there are many countries all over Europe, all of them somehow affected by the aggression of Russia against Ukraine. And it's not only it's a direct aggression with weapons, but we also have this hybrid war, which affects also Austrian countries. Only a few days before the elections, all parties or websites of parties were attacked by Russian hackers. So this threat is there, and maybe the new government, or now the discussion about forming a new government, gives us a momentum also to, to bring this initiative and its potential more into the media and also into the political discussion.
Thank you very much. So good that you've mentioned that there still might be some place for improvement, right, when it comes to Austrian position in the Three Seas initiative. And now we are moving to Matija Horvat with the same question. So, have we lost momentum as a Three Seas initiative, and can we play any role in addressing emerging threats, especially security threats in current geopolitical landscape? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Look, when somebody asks about lost momentum, some part of the answer is in the question. So, okay, there is an impression that, like I said, that this project is still under-recognized in Croatia, even if we had more projects than, for example, Austria. I would say that we must achieve more. There is a more potential in this. Success does not depend on money and projects invested in those projects. This is secondary question. Primary thing is that the priority should be within the following policies framework to address the emerging threats in the present and in the future. So our think tank thinks that we should encourage stronger joint defense investments. So Croatia, if we're talking about the GDP investments in our military, in our defense sector, there are various datas, but we think that we exceeded 2% of GDP investing in our military, in our defense. Our role model is Poland, which is on 4% and striving to get higher than 5%. And Poland is now the possible, after Ukraine, the second largest military in all of Europe. So we are greeting these opportunities to achieve more on this field. So just a few datas. Croatia is planning. So Croatia purchased 12 Rafale fighter jets from France from the second hand. We have a procurement of almost 89 Bradley fighting vehicles from our allies from the United States. They are on the refurbishment right now. There is a plan to purchase new tanks, drones, anti-missile component. Of course, Black Hawk helicopters. And we are striving to, because look, our region is still a gray zone. I think that Mr. Reinhard from Austria knows this region very well. So we must be cautious and we must be vigilant. So after a decades of non-investment in our military, we are starting, because everybody wake up during this full-scale invasion. But this war at our eastern flank is going on for 10 years now. So we must wake up and do more. So our think tank also, when we talk about cooperation between our countries, we see additional opportunity to create funded clusters about detecting disinformations. Of course, the disinformations are coming from Russia, assertive China, and nowadays Iran, North Korea, and all those autocracies. Mrs. Famous Polish American journalist and historian Anne Applebaum wrote a book, Autocracy Inc., which is very new in the shops, and it's a great short book with a simple language. And we are talking about networks of dictators who are not some James Bond villains who are meeting in some room, but there is a network and they are cooperating, and money, we must follow the money always. So this is a very important thing that like-minded people, individuals and countries, governments should cooperate on. So fighting disinfo. We also see closely cooperating our policies regarding economical freedom, regarding methodology and institutional reforms. I would like to stress one important thing: rule of law, backbone of democracy. We know that in our initiative, in our partnership, we had some regimes, and I already mentioned them in our first question. It's the biggest threat maybe in Hungary, that are backsliding in democracy, and rule of law as should be enshrined in every document. And regimes who are not doing according to that should be isolated, and we should be strict on that. So just a few more. We see this potential in our partnership regarding the same model as Chinese Road and Belt Initiative. So we should cooperate in that way, maybe, for a dual infrastructure for NATO, for example, or something like that. So security, defense, rule of law, the most important things for this initiative.
Just may I add a short remark? Mr. Horvath spoke about the spending for defense. Austria was one of the countries which did not invest in its military defense. It was ridiculous, much less than 1% of GDP. Now there is an agreement of all parties which are in the parliament that we need more money, and in the budget there is more money now for the military. And the interesting thing is that especially this Freedom Party, so this right-wing populist party, is very much pushy to invest more money into military defense because they say, or they still believe in this concept of neutrality. So they realized that there is a threat, and if there is a threat, and if we want to be neutral, then we have to do something by our own to increase our capacity to defend ourselves. On the other hand, as soon as there is any kind of cooperation like this Sky Shield project, they are strictly against it because this is against neutrality, and then we are depending on other countries. Somehow it's ridiculous, but the fact is that all of them are now ready or say it and even make decisions that we spend more money for military defense.
Just one question for distinguished Mr. Klošek. Freedom Party, FPO, for who they say is the aggressor? Slovenia? For who? Are they saying who is the aggressor?
No, they are not saying who is the aggressor.
Of course.
But they see that the aggression is there, yeah? They don't talk about it because they have their partnership with Putin's party. But however, the fact that they also support this initiative from spending more money in defense is at least one good sign in their politics.
Just maybe a few words when we are talking about our neighborhood, if I may. Mr. Reinhard knows this region very well, and probably, and we must, so all Europeans must know that Serbia is a central problem in the Western Balkans. They are central for Russian hybrid threats. They are a Russian proxy. They should not be appeased.
Yeah.
And the West is making the same mistake with Serbia, with Vučić, as that they made with Putin. And exactly. And this, even now, we don't have any nuclear weapons in this this state. So why do they appease him? We don't need this kind of Serbia anywhere. Serbia is projecting its soft power to the neighboring countries through Serbian Orthodox Church. Also, role model is Russia, Russian Orthodox Church. So we know that we have a frozen conflict in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia is controlling 49% of that country. And this is a security threat that is not well addressed even in Croatia. And we must speak more about this. And so I would like to say that, so we have, like I said, Anne Applebaum, Autocracy Inc., we have this axis here, Vučić, Orban, Dodik, strongman, Serbian leader from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So all Europeans, our Polish friends, our Austrian friend already knows this, should know that this Dodik should be former even yesterday. High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Schmidt from Germany, CDU, has all the authorities to make Dodik gone. But somebody doesn't want that. And we must address this problem, because this is the biggest problem, our Serbian secessionist movement in Bosnia. And I see a problem maybe in a few years, if we don't deal with this, maybe even sooner, that little green men from Belgrade will come to Banja Luka. and everybody will watch what is happening here. So we must act immediately, and that is why I'm speaking about military security. And this is a topic that that we must question here in Croatia, because this is in our interest. Our interests are not just our people, Croatians who live, are natives in Bosnia, because we have this frozen conflict, and Dodik says that he will unite with Serbia. So we must know that Greater Serbia, they are Russians are their role models. So we have a Russian world, Russian peace, and pretty much the same is here in the Western Balkans. We now have the concept of Serbian world.
Yeah.
And everything that they didn't succeed in a war in 1991 to 1995 in Croatia and Bosnia. So Croatia, they know that they can threaten us, we are NATO member, but Bosnia is a gray zone. So Bosnia must be on European path and on Euro-Atlantic path, but it is not possible with people like Dodik. So he must be ousted yesterday. This is a great problem, and we must address this more often, and we must speak it frankly, because with some people you cannot negotiate. So if Serbia, for the time being, we must say to Serbian regime, you shall not pass. You will not go to Europe. I mean, Serbian population doesn't even want Europe. They want to live in Vienna, in Berlin, but they just want pensions from Western Europe. They don't want to be in European Union, in union of values, in principles, because dictators, autocrats like Vucic or Dodik cannot be a part of this our union. With Orban, you can think what would happen if you have at the same table those guys. I mean, Dodik is not even an international factor. He's like some autonomous province leader, but somebody is giving him stage. Every time he goes to Brussels to the meetings, he goes, and next day he goes to St. Petersburg. This is not normal. So and Serbia is projecting its soft power to its hybrid soft power to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also we must know that for the time being, Montenegro is not a reliable partner in NATO, because we have a coalition there with Greater Serbian and pro-Russian parties. So it's something like in Georgia. So you have Georgian Dream in Georgia, which is a pro-Russian party, and they are talking about Christianity. They are talking about how we are a great country, investing in Georgia, and so on. But they are parroting Kremlin narratives. The same thing is here in our neighboring region of Western Balkans. So Montenegro is temporarily occupied country, and we have problems with them, official problems with them, and we must take a firm stance. So Montenegro in the next elections, don't vote for pro-Russian and Greater Serbian parties. We cannot cooperate with you. And sadly, Kosovo, as an independent state, is a victim because they want Kosovo to cooperate with Vucic. You cannot cooperate with Vucic. This is not possible. But our European partners still don't know that, because Mr. Reinhard already knows that European Union role in the war during the beginning of the 90s was very slim. They didn't know how to do this region. Americans must enter the stage, but Americans made great things, but also they made a compromise in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is Dayton Peace Accord. And this peace accord is a provisional thing, and it should be revised. Mr. Reinhardt agrees. I know that he knows this region, but nobody is working on this. We are dealing some secondary issues in Bosnia, and we must deal this first issue. Get those pro-Russians out of here. We have all the power, and we must say to them, you shall not pass, you will not succeed.
Exactly, and just to add one or two sentences, the great weakness of the European Union, not only in that region, but especially in this region, is that we, or the diplomats in the European Union, believe that you can negotiate with those people and shake hands with those people. But shaking hands with Vucic or Dodik, or even with many others in this region, does not mean that you just shake hands. They take something from you. And as soon as you go back one step, they go forward for 2 steps and force you to go back another step.
Like Putin, everything is the same. Everything is the same. Like with Putin, you don't appease those guys.
Yeah, we are spending millions of euros into that region, but at the same time with that money, without having a policy behind it or political goals behind it, we are financing the corrupt mafia system there.
Yes, ethno-businessmen, we call them. So we need a new structure of politicians here. But we need help from the so-called international community. But nowadays, international communities has too much business with Russia. I mean, we must deal this crisis. So I just want to stress that Balkan is one of the battlefields. We have Middle East. We have kinetical. The most important thing is battle of our time is waging in Ukraine, and we must help Ukraine to win. And even this initiative should cooperate on purchasing equipment for Ukraine. Political decision needs to be made for a victory against Russian criminal regime, and Ukraine should be one day part of this initiative. We must go to the Black Sea. But it is important not just to say that free, independent, sovereign Ukraine. It is important to say territorial integrity Ukraine. We must respect UN Charter. We must respect Helsinki Accords from 1975. We must expect Budapest Memorandum and all those things that those criminal gangs from Moscow has breached. And we must be firm here. So battle of our time is waging in Ukraine, but Balkans is also a battlefield. Middle East is a battlefield. For time being, it's all a sideshow because the battle of our time is waging in Ukraine. But I just want to stress our friends from Poland and Austria and other viewers who are watching us that Balkans is a battlefield also. And Croatia should play a bigger part here. It is in our interest to have better neighbors, and we must address everything to help opposition, all those who are opposing the so-called Serbian world, and which is basically the same like Russian world. So a lot of things must happen here, but we need a new generation of politicians.
Exactly.
Yes. Balkans, very important battlefield, but the most important is in Ukraine. If we win in Ukraine, the danger here goes down. We just need to defeat all the Russians there. So during the first days on invasion, the people in Bosnia and Herzegovina were really scared. Because, every time when Dodik says something about secession, people are saying, oh my God, is there going to be a war? And some actors are downplaying this. Of course, there is not going to be 1991, 1992, but some kind of clashes, kinetical clashes are possible. We had this in Kosovo last year. We had unrest in Kosovo when 80 members of NATO were wounded. I mean, those Wagner guys there. Wagner mercenaries was in the pro-Serbian crowd. And nobody is addressing this issue in a serious way. So, like Mr. Reinhardt said, we don't negotiate with Vucic. We don't negotiate with Dodik. We do not negotiate with pro-Russian coalition in Montenegro. But we must help those people. In Montenegro, population probably is 50-50 pro-Western, pro-Eastern. In Serbia, you have maybe the polls are different, but the majority of people do not want European Union. They just want pensions from Europe. They don't want values of European Union. Yes, money, because they like Russia, and we say, go to Russia, go earn your money in St. Petersburg. There are lots of oils there and gas, natural gas. Go there, go play football there. But people are. We don't have a pro-Western opposition in Serbia in a majority ways. Maybe 5 to 10% people who are firmly pro-Western, but if you ask them about Serbian aggression on Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, they would say that was some wars. We are brotherly nations, and so on. It's a similar thing with the Russian opposition. Even those Russian liberals cannot admit that Crimea is Ukraine, for example. It is difficult for them. And we have the similar problem here because all those Serbian opposition think that Kosovo is part of Serbia, but Kosovo is independent more than 15, 16 years ago. And Kosovo should not be a victim of appeasing Vucic. We do not want Vucic to be a part of the West. He can be his half Russian proxy or whatever. Just don't appease him.
Thank you very much for your interesting inputs on Western Balkans. I really like this phrase that Western Balkans are the battlefield for the other countries. And of course, this is currently like a gray zone somewhere between European Union, China, Middle East, and other countries. So definitely this will be the topic of debate for the next few years at least. And we are moving on to the last question for today. Both of you mentioned in previous questions that we can still see some potential to grow, some potential to improve as a Three Seas initiative. So I would like to ask you, looking at current situation of the initiative and potential to grow, do you foresee an inclusion of new potential members, either regular members or strategic members to the Three Seas initiative? If so, which countries would you see joining the initiative? In recent years, we had some new countries welcomed. We had, for example, Greece, right? Reinhard Klocek, please, the floor is yours.
We must not forget the Three Seas initiative is an initiative for members of the European Union. So only members of the European Union can be full members of the Three Seas initiative. Ukraine and Moldova, who are partners, are just participating, as it is called, participating partners in this initiative. So and Japan is a strategic partner, for example. So if we talk about countries that should be invited or could be interesting for the Three Seas initiative, from my perspective, Italy would be such a country. Why? Italy is on the Adriatic Sea, has a coastline to the Adriatic Sea. It has a government which is clear when it's about Russian aggression. So it is defending the Western world. It supports Ukraine in defending itself. But, and this is what we discussed just before is the complete region of Western Balkans, so these 6 countries which are not members of the European Union, which are surrounded by European Union countries, which could be somehow integrated as participating partners, but with a clear strategy what they are standing for. So Serbia would not be in the first line. Yeah? But for example, countries like Albania, Macedonia, could be very interesting for the 3 Seas initiative to integrate them somehow, bring them closer, also invest in infrastructure, also Bosnia-Herzegovina, because it's, this is the real battlefield besides Kosovo when it's about Serbia, because they are directly in there and fighting their special war, which is, well, mostly just a criminal, the war of a criminal gang, what they do, but backed by Moscow and also by China. We must not forget China when we are talking about this region, especially when we talk about Montenegro, where they are in there. But I think this should be in the first line of a strategy for the 3C initiative to bring those countries closer to this initiative within the European Union.
Thank you very much. Indeed, including Western Balkan countries in 3C initiative would be beneficial for them, especially due to the possibility of economic boost or any infrastructural projects that would benefit whole region at the end of the day, right? So now I will give the floor to Matija Horvat, asking about potential members that can join the 3C initiative, and if yes, then who would you see participating in the initiative?
Of course, I agree with Mr. Reinhard. Italy, Albania. Like we said, no to Serbia at this point, and in some, I don't see in near future anything better. Like we said, Bosnia is a special thing that we must address more because, like I said, at this point, Bosnia and Herzegovina can't go anywhere. Because if you have a Dodik with negotiation table, you can't go anywhere. So Bosnia, no, for this period in 3Cs initiative, but of course we are supporting joining Moldova until as long as they have their clear pro-Western path, and like we said, when Ukraine is victorious, Ukraine will be a new member. Georgia is also a significant part of the Black Sea, Eastern Black Sea region, and at this point they are also occupied, like Montenegro, and they can't join anywhere. I'm not an expert for the Baltic region, but I think that Finland or Sweden are Baltic states, and that they can give our this initiative some good things for the future.
Thank you very much. So we'd like to see Italy joining the initiative in the following years, and I hope it will happen. But of course, it's the decision of policymakers in Rome. Gentlemen, thank you for your participation today and interesting points given to our observers. That was a pleasure hosting you during today's event. And to our observers, dear followers, please follow our next activities, our debates and analytical articles. And that's it for today. Thank you once again. I wish you a pleasant week, and I hope to see you again during next events.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for the invitation.